Hello, BookTube. We're continuing with my library tour for 2022. We're just going to keep plowing along here in the little book room. And we're in a tall, thin bookcase that I had specifically made by a muscular teenager a long time ago to fit in any little corner. It fits in perfectly here, just perfectly. I lined up the bookcases on one wall, and then I lined up the bookcases on another wall. And then I had two lines of bookcases that almost met, with a space in between them where the actual corner of the room was. And I took this tall, thin bookcase and slid it behind those two bookcases, meaning that even if I pulled on this thing, I couldn't pull it over. It's held in place by the other two bookcases in addition to being snug in the corner. And I'm only losing a little bit of wall space. I can totally live with it. So what have we got here for books? Let's start off with this one here. Okay, well, a lot of these things are oversized because in addition to I wanted a bookcase that was very thin, about, what did I say? I forget. I think 8 inches wide, 10 inches deep, and very tall, so that oversized books would fit on this bookcase without me needing a special place for them. So a lot of the books on this bookcase are deeper, they're wider books, or they're taller books. Fine by me. Wonderful to have a place for them. Normal bookcase shelves just don't tend to do that. And this one isn't taller, but it is wider. This is Country Houses from the Air. Another relatively recent Brattle purchase that I got that does exactly what it professes. I think I got this last year. It shows you country houses not only in the way that you normally see them, but what they actually look like from high above, which gives you a chance to see the relation of the outbuildings and the true extent of the landscape. Just wonderful. Then we have another. This is another recent purchase. This, I think, also is from last year. This is Debrett's Stately Homes of Britain, which is very much the same thing. Those of you who might be new to the channel, I have a sweet tooth for these great piles out in the English countryside. I love their history. I love everything about them. I've been to a great many of them. It's possible that I've been to all of them, but there are quite a few of them that I've been to not as a tourist, but so something more than that. Usually more than that, where I got to ramble around, even stay overnight or several nights, including a few of them where they're in private ownership. They don't have tourists at all. So you if you have the right connections, you can spend time there as a guest. I think they're utterly fascinating, just in general. I don't think there's quite anything like them. Okay, then this next one is also a recent purchase. This is from this year. This is a big art book of Jc Liondecker, the artist Jc Liondecker. This has quite a bit of black and white and color reproductions, all of his advertising work, and a great deal of biographical information as well. There was a later Jc Liondecker retrospective that was also like this one, the companion to an art exhibit. And I don't have that anymore. I did a long, loving piece about Jc Liondecker that was specifically a review of that book, and I didn't keep it. I don't quite know why. I mean, I would ordinarily know why, because I tend to give away books. I rather like doing that. I rather like, for me, a big pile of book packages that I'm receiving in the mail is a lot less exciting than a big pile of book packages that I'm sending out in the mail. That actually feels better to do. And so ordinarily I would think that's the reason why I don't have that earlier book. But who would I send a Jc Liondecker book to? No one. There's no one I would send that to. So I don't know what happened to it. Then we have Conway Morris. This is a terrific book. I'm glad actually that it was made this way. I could easily have imagined that it would have been made into just a gigantic 1,000-page tome. This is from Templeton Press, and it's The Runes of Evolution, How the Universe Became Self-Aware. And this is a slight, I don't have a real comparison to show you, do I? Do I have a real comparison to show you? Like, for instance, this book on the Isabella Stewart Garden Museum, you can see this book is taller. But not only that, not only is it taller, but it's double columned. So it's actually an immense book. And I don't know really what that business is about the universe becoming self-aware, but this is really about convergent evolution. Really, this is a long book about a thing called convergent evolution, which is when it almost seems like there's a space open in the natural world that the forces of evolution then fill. Almost like they know there's a space and they fill it. So if you have a biome, maybe a million years after a massive ecological disaster or something like that, and no life form has yet colonized the air, no life form of all the life forms that have rebounded has yet developed flight in order to catch insects and mating and nesting and all that, that whole niche is open, then often organisms will evolve to fly. And it's happened several times independently in Earth's history. And the same thing is true with everything else. Whether you have an apex surprise, an ambush predator that lives in swamps, something like our current day crocodile, that niche has been filled many times. Apex wolf-like predators have that, where big predators who hunt in social packs. That niche has been filled several times, including by reptiles and pre-reptiles. It happens over and over again. And this book is a study of that. It's an absolutely terrific work on evolution. It belongs, in any evolution collection, if you are dorky enough to have such a thing. Then we have another companion to an art exhibit that I don't think I ever wrote about. This is Gondola Days, Isabella Stewart Gardner and the Palazzo Barbarossa Circle. Isabella Stewart Gardner is known now as a place rather than a person. The Gardner Museum here in Boston is incredible. Look at that, full color artwork. That's when you know you have the cooperation of museums. But before the Gardner Museum was a place, it was a person. It used to be Fenway Court, and the person was Isabella Stewart Gardner. There she is, veiled in Venice, and she employed a beautiful young boy to go to Europe and ransack it from end to end. Just go with a purse heavy with money and buy all sorts of things, all sorts of artwork that weren't nailed down. In quite a few cases, they were. And they had to be pried off the walls. And she filled the house at Fenway Court with that artwork, and it became an art museum. It's Boston's, I think, greatest art museum. No offense to the MFA. The MFA is a magnificent, world-class art museum, but the Gardner is immune to fad. It's immune to trends or visions, God help us, of any artistic director. It's part of the agreement, part of Isabella Stewart Gardner's will, that you can't do that. You can't do that kind of wholesale renovation to the garden. You have to leave it as it is. Guests don't seem to mind because it's so beautiful. And this is a story of those days, those Bernard Berenson days when she was meeting and hobnobbing with artists and figuring out what she could loot. Then we have this is another Brattle purchase. I think this is also fairly recent. This maybe is from this year or last year, certainly. This is The World of Bats, which is a very neat cover design because it's upside down as well, in case you want to do it that way. Because sometimes my almost babies like to roost upside down. But this is just enormous full color photographs of all kinds of bats and a quick thumbnail breakdown of many of the different species. Of course, you couldn't do them all, but many of the different species, many of their natural history, habits, and history or whatnot. Just a great big book on bats. So much fun. It's not. I would like ideally this thing, something like this, a normal hardcover this big, that is like this, only on high quality paper with full color photographs throughout. That would be great. Just call it Bats and have that book. If that book exists, I've never seen it. Instead, you get bigger things like this, which is fine by me, but it's a little ungainly to use. Same thing with this next one. This is edited by Nancy Seasholes, and this is the Atlas of Boston History. A very big thing. Do I have I'm sure I got this from a publisher. Does it have a pub sheet in it, maybe? No? Well, this is, the reason it's so big is because there you have the growth of the suburbs, and the reason why it's so big is because of all of the visuals that are all throughout here. It's an amazing Boston book. Look at that. There you go. Look at that, huh? That is Trinity Church. You can spot it in a minute if you know it. That, of course, is the Prudential Building. But that is Trinity Church. And if you can see Trinity Church, you know what this is. That is my darling library. But this is really, really good. It's oversized to the point where I need to make a special point of using it and lay it out on the bed and all that sort of stuff. And thank my lucky stars that I have a mature, normal dog. I have one normal dog. My little miniature schnauzer, Frida, is... she surrenders to her violent urges only with mice and once with a chipmunk. Not with things. Not with things at all. If I can think about the past when I would have wanted to take a look at this book, maybe thumb through a whole chapter. It's too big to put on your abdomen when you're in bed. It's too big to do anything like that. So you have to spread it out somewhere. And if I'd done that and I had a bed covered in beagles, as would be the case in my pre-booktube days for a huge number of years, if I turned my head, that bed would be covered in beagles. There'd just be tons of them, 4, 5, 6, maybe more. And if you put a book down on a bed like that and you flip a page, they just start going wild. They start tearing the whole thing to shreds. And it makes them so happy that I usually don't refuse. I usually just sit back and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but look how happy they are. So I have that luxury. I can use this now, but right, I do see a sheet in here. Yes, there is a sheet in here. This was from 2019. Oh God, now I have to put the sheet back in there. That's going to be a feat of prestidigitation. There we go. All right, and then, oh goodness gracious. All right, we finish up with comic books. I bet you thought you were all finished with comic books when Michael K. Vaughan and I do a comic book Wednesday that is disastrously unviewed. But you're not finished with them. These are oversized Treasury editions, oversized things that once upon a time were all the rule. I don't think they're done much anymore, although one did come out this week, I think. There was a big Legion of Superheroes. My beloved Legion of Superheroes had a big oversized Treasury edition here that I have somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, but maybe it's here. Two of their main characters got married, and there was a big spread of an issue for it. And it only existed in that big oversized Treasury edition from 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And DC finally decided to reprint it, clean up the colors, clean up the lining, and put it in a nice big oversized hardcover for people who missed that and maybe don't want to buy it at collector prices. But usually it's not done anymore. So what have we got here? All right, so this is Marvel Treasure Edition number 4. This is Conan the Barbarian. Look at that cover, huh? This has big full-page, full-color reprints of a lot of the Barry Windsor Smith issues. Where I'm going to put these here. Actually, I haven't been down memory lane in quite some time. All right, this is Marvel Treasure Edition number 7. These were $1.50. That was a lot of money in those days, but look at that Jack Kirby cover. This is from when Kirby came back to Marvel. He left for a while and created Apocalypse and Darkseid and the New Gods. Then he came back to Marvel in order to do Captain America and the Black Panther. But as a side gig, he also did covers whenever you wanted him to do that. Isn't that incredible? I mean, his Captain America run on Captain America and his run on the Black Panther are both not only comic book industry embarrassments, but national and maybe even international embarrassments. They are tremendously, epically awful. But he can do a real good cover. How is that? To see Jack Kirby doing Thor, doing Captain America, a character that he helped to create, and also on the back. Same thing on the back. There are characters saying hi to everybody. And this just reprints a random selection of Avengers issues. I'm amazed that these things have still held up. Because, I mean, I paid $1.50 for this thing in 1975. And it's still here. In a room undreamt of. What are the things that are in common between now and then? 1975. We're almost in 2025. Good Lord. So what are the things that are in common? The bed, actually the box spring, the metal part of my little bed is the same. The mattress is gone. The mattress is different. I got one of those foam mattresses that come all rolled up, and you have to let it breathe and live and grow on the floor before you move it anywhere. I got one of those. So the mattress is gone. But what else? Oh my. 1975 Steve. There's going to come a thing out of science fiction called the World Wide Web. And there are going to be computers in everybody's home instead of at MIT and Caltech only. And they're going to be small and light and really usable, user-friendly, and they're going to be connected to each other. That is different. That is certainly not true. Not only that those things would exist, but that I would make my living on them. That I wouldn't be. Actually, that is true though. That part hasn't changed, which is that the living is the same. Writing book columns, often telling the same jokes, reviewing books, but no carbon paper, no late night cursing over a manual typewriter because you got all the way to the bottom of one page nice and clean and then you made a mistake. And you don't have any whiteout and you don't have any carbon papers. You just have to type the whole thing over again. And you can't wait because it's got to go in the mail tomorrow morning with a stamp. Oh my. Oh, that's certainly changed. And also, I have a tiny little dog. I have a 10-pound dog. She's big in personality, as any of you who have met her will know. She's big in personality, but there's not a crowd of beagles on that bed. Oh, wow. And yet here is this book right here in a library tour. All right, so I already know what's coming then. I know what else is on here. My favorite Marvel Treasury Edition has got to be on this pile. Yeah, yes, it is. My favorite Marvel Treasury Edition, that would be number 3, The Mighty Thor, with a John Romita Sr. cover. There he is swinging away from Asgard on the front, and there he is on the back transforming into Donald Blake. Look at that cover. Good Lord. You can tell it's John Romita Sr. because of the thumb. That is a signature John Romita Sr. thing. He does it everything. You can tell in a lot of other ways as well, but that is for sure. He does that with his thumbs. And he also makes Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, sleek metal, as opposed to a sort of stone look. On this cover. He doesn't do that all the time, but he does it for this cover. Ah, fantastic. And this Treasury Edition also had an original piece of artwork by the artist on Thor at the time, John Buscema. Did all of our core cast of characters in an original illustration in the middle there. Fantastic. Well worth the $1.50, although that was my whole weekly budget. $1.50 was my whole weekly budget for spending money, just in general. So it meant something. When I saw one of these things at the drugstore, separate from the individual comic books, I had to think long and hard about it because, I had comic books that I wanted to buy that week. So what else have we got here? Oh my goodness. All right. This is Marvel Treasury Edition number 2. This is the Fantastic Four. This is also a John Romita Sr. cover. There they are. There's our Fantastic Four with the pogo plane taking off from the Baxter building behind it. A little comic book nerd back in the 1970s said, well, how could the pogo plane be taking off if they're all here? Who's in the pogo plane? Is it being stolen? And there is our team on the back, simply looking up into the sky to face their destiny. And this is a John Romita Sr. cover. You can see once again the thumb there. That is absolutely signature. Mr. Fantastic has it, and so does the Human Torch, and so does Sue Richards in the background there. This is very much the 70s style look for the Fantastic Four, and fortunately this is the very last time, one of the very last times we're ever going to see this iconographic depiction of the Fantastic Four, where you've got the 3 men charging to the fight and Sue Storm worried in the background. See, she's terrified, and she's calling on them to be careful when she's one of the most powerful members of the team and is never treated that way. And this is the same thing. Just this reprints a bunch of miscellaneous Fantastic Four issues and then gives you the whole run, the 3 issues of Galactus and the Silver Surfer. And also has an John Buscema artwork in the middle, a spread of the team at the moment, where you have Thundra in the background there. You have Medusa, who was a member of the team. You can see she has a 4 on her belt buckle. You have Agatha Harkness, who at the time was not a TV series villain. Instead, she was the very old witch that Sue and Reed got to be a protectress for their little boy. Okay, next we have a big Treasury Edition, but it's not 50 years old. Instead, it's from just 20 years ago. This is a big, oversized edition from DC of Wonder Woman by Alex Ross. And who writes this? Alex Ross and Paul Dini. So the text is by Paul Dini. And this is just a big story about Wonder Woman. These big Treasury editions are fantastic. DC eventually did reprint all of these things together. They did one for Superman, one for Batman, one for Wonder Woman, one for Captain Marvel, the real Captain Marvel, and one for the Justice League, and they reprinted them all in one big volume that we'll get to on this library tour. For some reason, I have the individual Wonder Woman one. I'm hoping that I have the others as well. And if we've seen the old Marvel Treasury editions, we saw 3 and 4 and 2, so 1 has got to be here. And if you're a Marvel fan in the 21st century, if there are any left, you're thinking, well, surely 1 is the X-Men, surely 1 is Wolverine. But no, no. For 60 years, Marvel had a knockdown, drag-out, most popular by far character. And it wasn't the X-Men. It wasn't Wolverine. It was Spider-Man. Marvel Treasury Edition number 1. This is not mine. This is in perfect condition. It's like the day it was made. Whereas my others are not. One of you sent me a copy of this because I could not for the life of me find my Marvel Treasury Edition number 1. Mine didn't look like this. It'd been through fires and flood, and it'd been walked on and sniffed over by many, many dogs, and thumbed through by many, many guests over wine and calzones. And it's here somewhere. But this is much nicer. Look at how pretty that is. Once again, we have a John Romita Sr. cover. Once again, you can tell by the thumb. His thumbs are very distinctive. And there we have Peter Parker and Spider-Man on the back. I don't remember if this has an original piece of artwork in the middle. I think at the time that this came out, it would have been Ross Andrew who was doing the artwork on the monthly book. But maybe for the original Treasury editions, they didn't do that. They don't appear to do that. They must have added that on as a feature in later ones. But what else have we got here? Here's a big Treasury edition of Superman versus Wonder Woman. There they are fighting in the U.S. Capitol. This is artwork by the great Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and this is the Superman and Wonder Woman of Earth 2, not Earth 1. And it's a little bit disappointing. Circumstances, it's a ridiculous comic. I wrote about it at great length at one point or another in a Steve Reads post that's almost certainly unfindable. And it's a little bit disappointing in one regard. You can see it telegraphed on the cover there. Wonder Woman is about to scratch his eyes out. She's not going to fight with him, even though she has 10 times more combat training than he does. She's not going to fight with Superman. Instead, she's going to scratch his eyes out, maybe pull his hair or kick him in the shin or something like that. Utterly ridiculous. And they do fight. I mean, Superman and Wonder Woman do fight in the course of the issue. But it's, first of all, it was a little bit dodgy for them to do it on, in Earth 2, these ersatz characters instead of the real Superman and Wonder Woman. And second, it was still being governed. I mean, this thing, I got this when? I don't know if this is my original copy. Yeah, 1978. I got a copy of this in 1978. And in 1978, these things were still completely governed by just routine office sexism, where some of which was chivalric, some of it was meant to be gallant anyway, which is that a woman can't just haul off and punch a man, even if the woman is as strong as Hercules, which Wonder Woman is. So in fact, in several Wonder Woman origin stories, we're told that she's stronger than Hercules. She should be able to hold her own against Superman without resorting to scratching his eyes out or pulling his hair. And she does, largely in this issue, but I could stand for it to be redone. Then what? We've got another. Oh my! All right. Well, we're awful close. This is not the Legion of Superheroes Treasury Edition that I was talking about, but it's awful close. This is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes Big Treasury Edition. There is, boy, this thing is almost falling apart. Look at that! How incredible! That's Mike Grell doing the artwork on the cover there. If you're wondering, we've gone through a little tutorial here about John Romita Sr. John Romita Sr. The reason I say senior is because his son is also a comic book artist. But John Romita Sr., you can tell by the thumb. His thumbs will always be very articulated. And you might be wondering, well, do other artists have tells like that? Yes, Mike Grell has a tell like that. Mike Grell, you can tell by his abdomens. He has a thing about shadowy abdomens in his male characters. See, you're going to get something like that in every male character where the costume allows it. You're never going to get this in any other artist. He's very much into that sort of thing. And this is just a collection of Legion issues, of great Legion issues, with an original artwork spread that is the marriage of Triplicate Girl and Bouncing Boy. And it's attended by all of these people. This is a new piece of artwork. This had never occurred before in a comic book. You have all the characters of DC and one other. That is Tars Tarkas of Barsoom fame, in case you're wondering. Now, what's he doing at the wedding? He seems as confused as you are. This one is here, but I don't think that that wedding issue is here. Lightning, not this wedding, another wedding. And then we have this last one, which I think is I got this when it originally came out, but I believe this copy is a rebuy. And this is Marvel Treasury Edition numbers 15, Conan the Barbarian. There you have Conan and Red Sonja. We've got, I don't know if this has original artwork in the middle. Well, there's a pinup, a Frank Thorne pinup of Red Sonja. No. Okay. Well, these Treasury Editions, you never quite knew what you were going to get, but it was always nice to see the artwork done on such a big scale. You know, you didn't get that in the monthly comics, and some of it is good enough so that when you blow it up to that size, it really makes a difference. You really enjoy it. Of course, the Steve from 1977 could not possibly have imagined digital comic books in which you can do that with your fingers. You can pinch the artwork up and get details about anything. The Steve from 1977 could not have imagined much what's going on today. Not much at all. But anyway, you don't need to hear me go down memory lane. So I'll wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.